Okay. There we go. I have a commercial. If I have a commercial, does everyone have a commercial? Or are you all just sitting here watching me watch this commercial?
No, if you have a commercial, it's just you. We sit there and watch you have the commercial.
Really? That's not very good. Hello, I'm watching a commercial. I like how I get my own commercials. Everyone's like, why does he always sit there and stare at things? Hello, hello, hello. All right, here we go again for another wonderful adventure. We're going to do critiques tonight because we had a bunch of critiques left over last time. So, yeah. But Rama, I'm not making anything. We're critting today. We had a bunch of people who didn't get through last week, so we are going to do more critiques. And it appears I'm Shane Olson today. Okay.
Ooh, fancy.
I know. It's awesome. I like being Shane. So we're going to start with some characters. No. Okay. Oh, let's turn paint off because honestly, we're looking at models. Okay. So how are we all doing tonight? Can everyone hear me on all things? I see a YouTube. I see a Facebook. I see Twitch. What's the other one? Oh, isn't there another one? Or are there only 3?
There's only 3.
Oh, see, what do I know? All right, ta-da! There are 3. Okay, doke. So tonight we're going to go over models. If you have anything that you would like critiqued, Henry will put the link up because normally it's in my name, but today I'm Shane, so there we go. We're going to start with a Yamato final pose. All right, and they had some reference images, right? That's what these are? Okay. So, okay, I see where you get the kind of button nose there. Okay, so let's see what we got here. I wonder, what is this square thing? We have like a square thing in our, let's look at our geometry and see what's going on there.
That's where she keeps her Rubik's Cube.
That's what I thought. It's the Rubik's Cube holder. It's interesting because it was there when they remeshed, because that's an attempted remesh at something. Do we see that in the figure?
I would guess it was just an accidental press with a hard square alpha.
No, aren't you optimistic?
If that's in the original source material, I need an explanation.
Right? I want to know what... Yeah, it does kind of look like just a... Let's Sculpt Pro that since this has been decimated here. Unless there was a good excuse for... Is there one on the other calf? That? Oh, there is. Look. I wonder what that's about. Do you think it's maybe how he blocked it up? Are you here? I wonder if other people are spammed with join Tomas Wittelsbach. Or if I'm the only one getting spammed with other people's streams. Okay, well, let's just... I don't know what the big square things in the calves are. A little strange, but whatever here. Let's just go start with the body parts. Lower legs are really long, but I mean, that's kind of common. The knee is sort of in the wrong place, right? It doesn't roll over like that. It's a little bit more up. You know, your kneecap floats there, so it doesn't roll down. And I know there are boots on, but I just want to look at the anatomy. This is let me make sure, goes from the outside to the inside over this bone. It's not straight, it sort of crosses over. Oops, I have Sculptris Pro on. So you just want it to kind of look like it's doing a crossover there. You have a lot of thickness here, but not a whole lot of thickness here. I'd say the calf has a little bit more of a groove in there, because that's a really wide calf for as thin an ankle as you have. I'd say you're probably either your leg is straight, which it is, so this probably come in here. There's just a little hump in your bone right there. Her arches are collapsed. And your calf usually looks a little bit more like that. It's not a, oh, you know what we don't have? Soft thwart. Boop-de-doo. Boom, boom. And we need a pencil. So the calf usually comes up. Often you see the secondary calf muscle in there, but it really is sort of that shape. So it's just refining that a little. Also, if you're pointing, you wind up with a bump here, right? Because the meat is bunching there. So it's not a scoop, it would wind up going the other direction. Your calf, so this muscle comes in like that. This is usually a longer, nice curve, and then your calf muscle is kind of doing that. So you're close. It's just a little strange. Also, this muscle rides a little farther up. You're not going to get that trough there. That's a slightly, see, the curve is a little bit smoother, and then this comes in and bulks. This is another muscle that comes around to the knee. That's not a ditch there. Oh, is that the kneecap? Okay, so that comes around there. So that's looking a little more normalized. Yeah, it's probably a little better. That wants to feel like it's crossing over there. And that's okay, it's a little square. It's just a slightly better silhouette, I think. So we fixed your knee. That's still going to have, so this, it's not just a cone, so this muscle comes in like that, so you still have that going on, And then there's airspace in here, and then these muscles come in like this. So it's not just a tube. There's a little bit of silhouette there. Mm-hmm. Right, you see that. That's a little bit more like it. And that's probably going to come in a little more. And your buttocks. And I think I think these pinches are because of the shoes, I'm guessing, because it's a little strange. But if it's in the boot, you're probably shaping the boot and not really paying a whole lot of attention to what it's doing to the foot. Mm-hmm. And that calf muscle doesn't go away. It's being pinched there, so you're going to get, you know, the silhouette of it pinching. Come on. Just going to be a pain in the butt, aren't you? Yeah, that's fine. And here again, you kind of have these cone ankles the calf cuts in. You have the dent there instead of the meat. There's a muscle there. It doesn't just roll around and in. Okay. Let's turn everybody back on. It's Tony Santana. So the opening comments were just basically, we were just talking a little bit about the anatomy, just fixing your leg a little, just making sure that your lines are nice and smooth. This muscle crosses over, so you just want this to, this isn't just a tube down the center, there's a muscle that crosses over and then you see your bone. So there's sort of this long crossover line here, and then the bone comes out. Just trying to fill it up to where your curves are sort of in the right place. This isn't a tube, we just cut this out some, right? This isn't just a cone, we cut that out some. And I know that some of this is under your fabric now that I went back and looked at it, but you want to make sure that this stuff's in the right place so you don't get weird disjointed leg, because this leg's sitting under this a little too far, right? Because this meat bunches here. It doesn't just cut back up and in. So just pay a little more attention to where your stuff is. Originally, the kneecap was sort of pointing down. The kneecap floats, so it doesn't ever really point down unless there's a big problem. Like you broke your knee. Right. This is just a little bulky. All right, let's go back to everybody again real quick. Boop. Her balance is a little back, right? If you go down her ear, you can see we're sitting a little farther back. So you may want to just get her a little farther so her head's in line, and that way she'd balance a little better. But you see what I mean? This looks like it's flat instead of the leg. You know, this should be... And you have, it just seems like it's overly flat right here. Elbow's a little strange, but it doesn't look like, it looks like you were just putting armor on top of it. You weren't worried too much about the anatomy there. Come on. All right, boom. She's a little... Her cheeks are just a little... Whoa, what is that? When you projected this or something weird happened there. What is that? Hold on, let's... Either your projection got a little strange, or like you had things that were selected when you move something. Because see these? Not quite sure what's going on with those. Flip. Yeah, see how you have a bunch of these sunk artifacts. It looks like some of this is strange projection. So when you reprojected somewhere, something went squirrely, maybe. Yeah. I would say her cheeks are a little deep in the sense of, if we look at your reference material, I mean, here it doesn't look like it's concave. Here it doesn't look like it's concave. It looks like you just got... I mean, it just looks like this became a scoop. Instead of a cheek. If that makes any sense. So it's not just a scoopy slope, it feels like it's a face. And let's see. Feels like her mouth is a little wide, but it's really hard with anime character. See, it doesn't, like, the images aren't necessarily showing her with a really wide mouth. And right now she has a really wide mouth. So I'd consider, hold on, I'm just going to Dynamesh this real quick so we can sculpt on it a little. I'm just going to do the one side. Because that's sort of where the cheek ends there. So it just sort of feels like the mouth is really wide. Now, once again, that could be a decision. If it was a decision, ignore me. In the sense of I want a wide mouth, you know. But I think that flattening that cheek out, getting that mouth a little smaller, makes the chin line a little more obvious. You're not jamming the lower side of the face with the mouth being that big. I know, right? Where are eyeballs? Do you see how from this angle it appears that she has a cheek instead of just a slope? So I would think about getting this to be one plane. And I'm just going to do this sharp, you know, instead of. And then, you know. And then you have that. But that way, it's not just a scoop up to the eye. It's actually a cheek, even if you're dealing with anime. You know, there are some that have odd shaped faces, but honestly, you know, most of the anime images actually have very shallow faces as opposed to having such a deep eye socket. And so, does that make sense? Do you see the difference there? See how you have this scooping up to the nose, where there it feels like a plane that's intersecting with the nose. Yeah, so I just think about that. And like I said, just think about where the cheek sits, and then, you know, base your lips off of where that cheek is sitting. Because at the moment, the mouth is super wide. And I know my doing one side makes the lips look a little weird, but you know, as opposed to, where are you? Scoop, right? If that makes any sense. See your silhouette. Maybe it's not necessarily too wide, it's just too, well, that's also a different side. But yeah. Look at that. Now let's turn everybody back on. Your hair looks really nice. Because these are a brush these are very, very even. If you're going to have these be that even, I would then come in here and try to make these feel very much the same. Yeah, I think we have 6 or 7. We have 7 pieces, and yeah, and they're all the ones from last week, so have no stress. You know, like if you're doing these, I would probably come in with a sharper brush and make sure that these feel like more like these up here. I would also probably Dynamesh these and just knock some smoothness into them, but it's good. Your bat is nice. Now, is this just supposed to be wrappings? If it is, make it sit on. See how loose those are? Is there anything about those in the reference? No. So I would, yeah, you don't have wrappings there. There's no wrappings there. If you're going to use wrappings, and I'm assuming that that's what this is, a handle wrapping, make sure that it's tight to the bat and it's not just floating around like that. Yeah, I don't mind the style. I just think that if they're there, they need to be, you know, touching the object, you know, so it looks like they're wrapped instead of right, so it looks like it's actually wrapping the thing, and then that way it will also be on the inside of your hand at that point instead of just floating out there in space. Right. The pose of the hand's nice. See, because there, it at least looks like the hand is in the wrapping. So just make sure that if the hand's holding on it, that it's actually doing it. Your Hanya or Oni faces are pretty cool. I think that you could probably take advantage of twist here. Cute. A simple, instead of using just flat lines, if you use SK twist, it'll give you some separation, and you really don't need a lot. Oops, wrong direction. And you'll notice I'm not cutting that in. I'm using twists, so I'm getting an actual layer roll there. And that really helps punch those divisions up. Even as you zoom out, you can see that that really clarifies a lot of the stuff that's happening there, because those little rolls help a lot. The hand looks good. It's just the fabrics, you know, she's not holding on to something with fabric, if that makes any sense. It's all around her hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I would never tend to do that in pieces. I would probably like duplicate this. We're going to Dynamesh it so I can sculpt on it. Hide everybody. Find her hand. Where's her hand? Nope. Nope. Where's that arm? Okay, let's do this since I don't know where it is. We're looking for you. Where are you? No, I didn't recognize the whole torso. I was just looking for an arm. Alright, so let's turn everybody off again. We have you. We have you. We have you. So if I know that this is going to be the area, I'd very rarely do it in different parts because it just gets a lot to try to keep track of. Clay tubes. I would identify where. Come on. Right, so I know my fingers are here, so I can't go over my fingers there. That's there. We could get a little floppy in here. All right, so that's, I know that that's where my hands are, and I have some room back here. I want it touching my palm. All right. Let's quick save this before I start doing this, because I often have problems with my slashes. Come on, you can do it. Well, it is dependent on which direction you stroke it. Yes. It goes one direction one way and one direction the other way. So you are correct in that. So we're going to use that. We're going to cut you there. We're going to cut you there. Dynamesh. And I would come in, kind of get the flow for my wrapping. Hide my hand. And but by doing it this way, you know that your fingers are where you want them. Right, they're not hiding in the material. And you can come in and fiddle-futz with this until it looks good. Up and under, over. Make sure your hands fit. Okay, you can see here we're still... Alright, we know we're okay here. Okay, there. And then come back in and just sort of flatten those out so they feel like your wrappings, or however you want your wrappings to feel like, obviously. And take twist. Come back in and define your lips. You know, obviously I'm being a little quick here. Shloop, shloop, shloop. Clay fill, come back in, hold down Alt, whoa. Okay, I love when things like that work. Not going to use clay fill right now, we're just going to use clay tubes, come back in and kind of fill that stuff in, get your edges defined, and then turn this guy back on, boop, and just make sure that all this stuff, I'd use clay buildup. Back behind the edge. Back behind the edge. And then I would just Boolean that out. Hey, 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 how we doing? All right, let's see, where are you? Right. And then at least that way it feels like your hands are interacting with your wrappings, right? You know, I would probably come in and move my hand a little to make sure that's it, but if you can't or don't want to, you know, this way you can make it feel like they're in the wrappings or something, but it's not just going, oh right, you know, like, oh look, her fingers in between the wrappings, it's kind of coming up in between her fingers, you know. If that being loose and around is important, this gives you a way to do it and still keep the illusion that she's holding on to it, right? But that way you can tune it. And obviously you can make it as big and dramatic as you want. But you can see here that, you know, to fill in the hand, all I have to do is come in here and say, okay, we need more fabric there. And now that airspace is full. And you don't have to come back and twist and tweak and burn and you just like, okay, there it is. Right. Okay. Let's turn everyone back on again. That hand's pretty good. This, like I said, I wasn't sure about, you just putting armor on and stuff, but this elbow is obviously a little strange. Your anatomy in here is a little odd. And it seems like you just did the 2B arm and then we're putting armor on it. So, it's not drama that it's this way. But I think you'll be happier with your product at the end of the day if you are thinking about the anatomy all of the time. Even just so things don't wind up in the wrong place. Don't let your anatomy get out of your control. Because, when you wind up with an elbow and it's sort of like in the wrong place and it doesn't make any sense, if you see that elbow through the armor, it's like, okay, well, why is it there? Hmm. Hmm. What is up with that? Interesting. That's masked. I always like when you get the invisible mask. If it's bent, you get a little meat in there. It's not a trough. It's right. But you see how that's sort of in the wrong place. So you're going to have to come in here and think about elbow joint. So does that make any sense? Oops, neither of those were clay tubes. Because even if you have clothes on, sometimes, you'll see through that. You'll see through the armor or something, and it'll be like, well, what's going on there? So just make sure that you're trying to keep everything sort of in, even after posing, that, your anatomy is sort of in the right place. Because between the gaps, it can get... After you've posed, it's between the gaps. It's like, well, not principled, disciplined. Here again, you tend to scoop these out. Meat pinches here. It's not a scoop, it's a pinch. So you're getting meat buildup there, not a scoop. And I know a lot of this distortion stuff is coming from posing, but I think that's my point, is even in the posing, just make sure that it's making sense. Your fabric's not bad, but these, yeah, let's look at your reference material. My inclination is these wrinkles are going the wrong way. Oh, I see. You got it from here. I'm guessing it's just usually the weight of a fabric is sort of the other direction, right? See how you have these rolling over? Normally what's happening with a fabric curve here is like it's normally wrinkles like this are formed by normally they're scooping at the top, not at the bottom. If they're overlaying, okay, I mean, I guess it's just normally your scoops. If you look at fabric, under most circumstances, see how yours are all rolling down and over? Most of the time these wrinkles are caused by the fabric doing this. Right there, gathering. You got to figure out where they're starting. And like you can get them, you know, rolling over this way, but usually it's at the bottom of a batch of wrinkles, and the tops are usually scooping in, not rolling over, if that makes sense. I would literally just take some fabric and just kind of roll it over a tube or roll it in something, roll it over your leg, and you'll see that you're probably going to wind up with things that look a little bit more like that. Because how the wrinkles are where the fabric tension is breaking. And that's why, like on pant legs, it's called the break, right? It's where the tension of the fabric breaks, and then you get the wrinkle, and then it's coming in and breaking. And there's sort of like a rhythm to the stuff, right? It's not just, unless they are tailored to be such, which, I mean, there are some. Normally you're going to wind up something that feels a little bit more like that. Does that make sense? Instead of folding down. Yeah, SK Twist is my go-to on pretty much everything and its brother. I use clay tubes and SK Twist a lot. Because most people, when they're sculpting, they just take the cut line and cut things in. But it breaks up your surface continuity, where with Twist, you can give yourself some nice curves, but now they're in a relationship with one another in the sense of one being on top and one being on the bottom, as opposed to just cutting it in. So yeah, I use twist for a lot. Yeah, I usually pose after the fact, honestly. And that's where having a lot of subdivisions is really important. Like, I want my base model to be as low poly as possible. End of story. And that's going to help me pose later on. The difference between clay tube and clay buildup is clay tubes acts like a layer tool. So if I'm going to come right here, let's make this big, right? I'm going to come right here and I'm going to just keep rubbing on this. Do you see how it doesn't build up, right? It's just a single layer, and I can kind of go back and around, and it's acting a little bit more like a layer tool. Where buildup, if you go back and forth, see how it continues to build up. So like when I'm trying to move big layers of material, I'll use buildup. But I don't really use buildup to sculpt too much unless, like I said, unless I'm really trying to move some material. Say like here where I'm hunting for the edge of this, right? Oop. I'd probably use buildup because I'm going to go like this until I see my edges, right? Like, okay, so there's my edge. But clay tubes just gives me a lot more control. Why are you posing in Blender? Oh, I guess because you're rigging it. Fair enough. So under normal circumstances, I am going to do something in this vein. Hold on, let's insert the star. I'm gonna bring you up here. Hide you. We're going to, where's the rest of the body here? Bring you up here. And dun. Where's my other leg? That's probably it, huh? No? Did I lose a leg here somewhere? I did. What did I do with that leg? Interesting. Alright, well. It's okay. We have a rough pose here. Where's my star? And I'll show you why I do this. So, W. And this is a thing for everyone. Let's turn transparency on. I'm going to go cube. Okay, cube, and then we're going to go Z modeler, and I'm just going to go, hold on, I don't want this many, like I'm doing one cube, soup, yeah, we're going to make it taller, Z modeler, come down, neck, torso. Oh, hold on, let's stop. arms, waist. And that's going to be hips. Why are you doing that? To the knee, to leg, and a foot. Leg, leg, foot. Arm. Shoulder, arm, hand. Shoulder, arm, elbow, hand. And so I would take this base model, and I have base models that are a little more complex, but not much. And I'm obviously not going to show you all the way here, but let's go move infinite XYZ, and I would slowly, get this to where it's sort of in the rough pose that I want to be sculpting in. And you make this a T pose, an A pose, whatever. I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to try to do this quickly, and then we would divide this, divide. All right. And now let's hide everyone for a second. And we come in. I'm just going to use Buildup so we can move some material pretty quickly. Turn symmetry on, maybe. Okay, yep. Chin, face, hair. Here. Arms. Chest. We'll turn symmetry off here in a second. I just want to get some meat on this so I can show you why starting with that simple of a model is important, or why it gives you control over your model. All right. Come on. It's too much. Oh, there's a little red. Come on. Brush is too big. Okay, so you start sculpting, right? You're getting all your stuff in here. And you're getting some detail in here. Okay. Now, here's my point. Let's turn this off. Let's get a higher resolution here. Okay. Gotta get clay tubes here, and we're going to, come on. Mm-hmm. I know you're like, but Tomas, I know how to sculpt. Obviously you don't. So you spent all this time and you've sculpted on your model, right? Now I'm going to take rake. And we're going to use rake as detail here. Let me smooth all this out for a second. So you've spent all your time and energy getting this guy here. And now I'm going to take rake, or one of my rake tools, let's see, or something that has texture in it. Okay, this will actually be fine. And you spent all this time and energy putting this detail onto this character, okay? I'm just using a brush that has some detail on it. And you'll see why in a second. And now we're going to change detail to where's just rake. Where's my rake brush? It should be right there. Interesting. I have lost my rake brush. There it is. Okay. And now we are going to and there's a reason. Everyone just be patient. I know you're impatient. And then I'm going to grab this pattern and we're going to put this pattern here. Right, so you've obviously spent a lot of time sculpting on this guy, right? You're like, okay, look at me. I have sculpted my character. And now for posing, when you all lose your subdivisions, right? Let's do one more. Legs. No. And this goes to answering another question that was asked a little earlier. Okay. You have your model, and you've done all your wonderful sculpting, and you're in your pose, but now you've dynameshed this. Now you only have one subdivision level, so that doesn't help you at all. Now, if we go all the way back down to our lower res, right? And now I want to pose it. So I'm going to come here. In this low res, I'm going to go twist, and then I'm going to block this off. Oop, turn symmetry off. We're going to block this off, and we're going to come here. We're going to go, okay, well, this leg is sort of forward. Nope, we do not want our torso to move like that. This leg is sort of forward. And then that knee is sort of back. And then I'm just going to come in here and try to keep these as similar in shape as I can to what they were originally. Right? moving that around. Then I'm going to move. But you can see that that leg in this side got a little distorted. Still just going to kind of come in here and keep it even. I'm going to come right here. Pose that a little. Going to come up here. Oops. Move my arm up. Move my arm up. And you can see where, as I start to distort this, I'm going to try to bring it back down and get these things in the right place. And I'm doing this all at this super low res, right? Well, why this is important, and here we're going to take our head. Now we might lose part of our chin because I didn't really spend a whole lot of time posing our head, but I think you'll get the idea. So we've done this, right? So now, if I come all the way back up, you can see that in all reality, I have very little distortion on the patterns that I put down. And this becomes much easier to come back and pose. This is 22.0.5. I think it's the latest one. But does that make sense? These alphas are some of Pablo's alphas. I can't remember which. This is probably the Beksinski Giger set. He sells really nice alphas. It's 2022.05. But do you see how you can, as long as you have your subdivisions, you can really do some dramatic posing. Now, if you notice this was soft because we went to here, well, you can come up one higher res and get a little bit more. And here is where I can now start to do this stuff. Oops. Right, you can see where it's pinching, and you can really start to tune higher res. It's going to get a little softer there again, so we're just going to, let's get lasso in here. Boop, boop, boop. Right, I'm going to get that. I'm going to move that over. And you can see you can fine tune your shape as you come up, higher res. And you can really start to choose how this is going to shape, right? Higher res. Higher res, higher res, higher res, right? And so there's a little distortion, right? But in the grand scheme of it, this is much easier to come back in and fix. So subdivision, keeping your subdivisions, keeping your base model as low as possible, and then in turn, getting as many subdivisions as you can between your top sub D and your lower sub D, it gives you incredible power. Right. And that works the other way. So let's say you have a lump in a model, right? Like this, and you just want to smooth out these lumps. You're like, oh, that's not what I want. Turn Q off real quick. Like, oh, I want a different pattern here on this chest. But when you're up here, you can never get rid of those lumps, right? Well, that's where lowering your res down. And here, I don't really view this as smoothing. I view this as relaxing the mesh, because we're actually changing the shape of the model here. It's not just smoothing. And we come higher, and you just do it one step at a time. Boom. And this is where people are always like, oh, well, if you sculpt at high subdivision levels, because I sculpt in the, 15 to 100 million poly models or subtools. You can see that we've now eliminated most of that lumpiness, and you have a lot more control over your tool at that point. So, yeah, I think if you just keep control of your mesh, you don't have to go all over the place to do the stuff. Righto? I know that was a crappy body, but I hope I got... Did that make sense, guys? Even though I did this crappy body? All right.
Yeah, it still made sense.
Okay. I'm like... All right. We're going to delete that. Yeah, so I think that's... Just keep control of your anatomy, I think, is really the key to a lot of this. And then I would play with actual fabric as opposed... It just feels like all these are upside down. Keep your anatomy pretty clean. If you have sharp hair, make sure this hair is sharp. If this hair is not sharp, dull this hair down. Fabric, make sure the fabric is under the hand. Anatomy. Yeah, your leg anatomy we went over a little. Yeah. All right. Who's next? Do you have any questions before we move on? Yeah, just run over it with smooth, just, ooh. Yeah, Dynamesh it and then smooth it, because obviously there's not enough to smooth there. Yeah, of course. That's why we're here. Do I really not have any water? That's tragic. Okay. We're going to have to resolve that at some point. I don't know. Okay. Who's next?
Up next, we have Samat with the first portrait attempt.
I'm assuming it's this one. Nope, that's Dari, huh? Is that Retopo portrait? Could that be it? Samat. Yeah, that's it. Boom. All right, get rid of color. Okay. Not horrible. Not bad. Your ears are really tiny. But they're good shape. They're little... Your skin texture on the lips is nice. The sculpt of the lips is nice. It feels like the face is a little small for the head. And that is why your ears are too small. If that makes any sense. So, like... So for your face, that's kind of the size of the head we're dealing with. If that makes any sense. So your face is just a little small for the head. So I think that's where, because your silhouette's fine. Very rarely, I mean, it happens. Very rarely is this clean. Usually this is a smoother transition. Normally this is cut in a little more. I don't know I'm not seeing a picture, so I'm not quite sure. I'm just throwing out generalities here. The face is a little flat, but once again, that's purely do you have a picture? of who this is supposed to be?
I'm not even sure we know if they're here.
Oh, okay. So, and it feels like this has been pulled and stretched. Yeah. So just under normal circumstances, if you go through the eye, like that's where your ear sits. Now, of course, it depends on what angle you're looking at the head, and blah, 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 blah. But I think 99% of the issues that I'm seeing are just because the head and the face are different sizes. That's probably a slightly closer estimation of where your face size should be. And then that also... Oh, no, you can't do that, Tomas. When you have lasso, you can't loop that. Oops. And let's... okay, so that's not bad. We just made it a little bigger. Turn symmetry on. Is something... What is going on? Am I getting... Yeah, so I would say that's probably a little closer to your scale. And any of the issues that really are there really have to do with the face just being out of scale. If that makes any sense. I like my big air holes. That's very lovely. Very nice. The back of the neck isn't flat. This is a pretty big cut in here. Yeah, so I would say make sure your face is the right size. And the next time, show me a picture so we can tell you what it looks like. But I mean, your anatomy and the details aren't bad. It was just slightly tiny. It's interesting that you had the skull. Well, yeah, the problem is normally your skull isn't like sitting completely flat. Interesting. All right. Yes, a 24 Pro. Oh no, what do you think? What's next? Henry.
What?
What's next?
Up next, you've got Andre, female model sculpt.
That's probably that one. Andre. I'm not seeing his name in here. That looks like a female model sculpt to me. What do you think?
Certainly looks like it. Andre is here, so he can tell us if it's...
Andre, is this yours? But this is yours, right? We are looking at the right model. Is that a yes?
I'm opening it now to be sure.
Okay, it's like anatomy and hair. Okay, so I'm assuming that this is it. All right.
It is.
Is this hair block in? What is this, I wonder? Probably. It looks nice. You're probably, and once again, it comes down to style and what you're trying to portray. Come on, what is that? You can, no, I don't want to, no, stop. Turn hair on. What are you? Are you in there? Oh, that's a lot of little hair pieces, my friend. Oh, I see. That's the shape that you are dragging your tool on. Okay. Well, I'm going to see the anatomy without that there because I was just getting a big hump. The face is nice. The eyes might be a little far apart. Because the lips and nose, this all looks good. But if we're going down the center of the eyes, normally your mouth ends at the center of your eyes. So you can see that that's bringing this in quite a bit. And I tend to agree with it, actually. Like, I know that a lot of characters and stuff have very wide eyes, but those are looking pretty darn wide. Your hair is actually looking great. And you've done a really good job about avoiding one of my huge pet peeves where they cross over each other. You've done a really good job of keeping these in the layers and making sure that things that are over are going over, like they're not cutting through one another. Your hair is looking actually fabulous. Hair looks great. Now let's turn the hair off for a minute. Yeah, I mean, I feel where you're going with it. I still feel like your eye, oops, let's not move. Still feel like your eyes could just come in a bit. And then if we turn our hair back on, it's a little closer, I think. Something to consider. I obviously wasn't being very careful. I was just moving it, but something to think about. Now let's get to our body here. When you have this meat intersecting, it's probably even going to be like this isn't going to not move. This is all compressing in as well. So you're probably going to get something that's a little bit more, I think slightly bigger, because that's quite a bit of meat pinching in one place. It's not fabric, right? So you're going to have slightly bigger intersection, meaty bits. If that makes any sense. Right, it's actually pinching and bulking on one another. It's not just like fabric. Right, this would become a little bit more like, and I know that my lines aren't matching yours. So we're getting some weirdness here, but right, they're just slightly bulkier intersections. See, like this is the right feeling, but I just feel like this is a little bit more like fabric than what the body would do. These are going to be, because you're dealing with that whole subcutaneous layer of fat. So you're not just going to get small intersections. They're going to be, you know, thicker. Right, you're going to be able to see it. Let me just take a look in the mirror at your armpit or something, and you'll see that you're moving a lot of mass there. Your anatomy's nice. Your feet are great. The hands, they look really good, but you got to remember that they're not just straight. They do sort of do that. So be careful about those things being just straight. Your hand tendons. Once again, it's sort of bent back, so you're going to get a slightly meatier intersection there. That's nice. Oh, your hand's nice. Your anatomy's nice. Don't be so timid with these meaty intersections. The shoulder's a little See the distance there? That shoulder's a little bit knocked out. And you're getting a little of the bulk here, but once again, just remember that that's a lot of meat being displaced. So these are actually going to be slightly meatier intersections. But your forms and lines are lovely. Her back's bending. There'd be meat intersection here. Now, in there. But your curves are nice. Your rhythm is lovely. I mean, it's good. So I think really just pay attention to these. They're not fabric, they're meat. You know, you have because I mean you obviously understand your anatomy pretty well. See, this is nice. Those are good wrinkles. Good wrinkles. Yeah. I just think you have to look at these more as meat, not quite as fabric. I think that's really your only big issue. Your eyes, like I said, might be a touch too far apart. What you're doing with the hair is really nice. I mean, you're obviously spending the time doing them in layers so they're not crossing over. So yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. Remember that the fabric will come down. Unless there's a heavy wind blowing, you're not going to get that angle. It's going to come off and then break. This, once again, straight. Gravity works, right? These aren't going to be coming off like this. Especially if it's a sheer fabric, it's going to lie and then go 90 degrees to the last point it's touching. So like on the butt here, you know, this farthest point out is going to be 90 degrees down and then kind of folding out. And I know, I can tell you haven't done a lot of work on the fabric, so not riding, not riding you on that one. Just make sure you remember that. Your nose and mouth are great. So, hair's great. Anatomy's really nice. Pay attention to your intersections and fix that shoulder. It's broken. It's sticking out.
Before you move on, Sina would like to know, how do you go about making a sculpt like this? Like, where would you start?
I would start with my base model. You know, just get my base model. And like in this, I probably would sculpt this in position, right? I don't know that I would sculpt this in like a pose or something like that. And then I would probably put this in position and sculpt it. But you can always sculpt it, get it close in an A position, then pose it and come back in if you really want symmetry to be tight. Yeah. No, how he did the hair is beautiful. He did a really good job. And see, this is actually quite wonderful here, because let's... No, I don't want everybody. I just want you. Come on. Okay, so these, I wish I could. I wish you had these paired together so we could see the lumps. And okay, so you can see what he did. He figured out the layers that he wants them to travel on, and then he drew he was using the hairbrush, and then he did them on each layer, and that's how he kept it so clean, right? These were on a layer, he did it. The next ones are on a layer, he did it. And yeah, this is a super, as far as the final product goes, this is a super process as far, just seeing what he's accomplishing. You can see how he set out his layers, came back in with the hairbrush and drew on those layers. And it looks like he pushed this closer to the head at some point and blah, blah, blah. But great hairstyle. You did a really, really good, a really nice process that looks really, really good. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, so really it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. I have a bunch of models, like base body models that I use, that are all either in an A or mostly in an A pose. So I lied. I'd probably start there since I had the anatomy, and then I'd pose it. I'm a liar. Sorry about that.
Dang.
I know, right? Very bad dog. Yeah, and you know what? You move that shoulder out, I think, because you didn't want to squeeze it into the breast when you move that. But if we look at this, and see that also, see how you kept this and this sort of the same? If we take this arm, and do with it what it's doing, actually here. Wrong direction. And bring it into where it should be, right? It is compressing up under that breast, compressing in here under this torso. That's at the wrong angle, but you see it would be pressing in more, and that's where that air gap on that side was sort of bothering me, because you would have it here because the arm's going away from the torso, but this, once again, straight up, over, shoulder, and see now it's coming under the breast, where this you still have your space on the outside of the breast. So by moving that over, you'll close the air gap in there under that breast. And then obviously that's the wrong angle, but that is also where, hold on, let's, come on, boop, boop, boop. And you would get sort of that pinching there, right, where it's pretty big. But you can see there the breast would sit over the arm, and thus creating that pinching there. I know, we were doing that through a lot of holes, so it looks like poo. But I think you get the idea, right? Makes sense? Even though it is horribly mangled and not very illustrative of actually what it should look like. Okay. Andres, do you have any questions on that, or are we moving on? I guess moving on it is. What's next?
Sounds like it. The artist is Dario, and the name of the model is just Character.
Dario. Okay, there we go. It's like me and my Under Armour sweatpants. They fit really loose except my calves, so loose, super tight around the calves, and then they cherry off my calves. So that's hysterical. I don't know if he's doing this to make it. This is my life of sweatpants. That's hysterical. This is beautiful and perfect. Oh, that's so funny. It's a lot of fun. The only thing I think that you would probably have a little more. Move. Very few loose fitting clothes is going to be cut that high of an armpit. So I think this would be just a little bit more down here maybe. But it is tight. I said loose fit, but that is sort of tight. I mean, the wrinkles and stuff are really nice. Yeah, the only thing I'd really say, and especially since it's a stylized character, you know, obviously you're over stylizing your wrinkles and stuff. But, I mean, you even have these small surface tension wrinkles and, I mean, a really nice attention to detail. Like, you're probably not going to have this big a, you know, it being that baggy between the thighs and the knee. But being a stylized character, you know, it's great. The feel of how you have characterized the boots or cartooned the boots and how they have some weight to them and stuff. This is lovely. It's really good work. Your wrinkles are really well informed. I mean, they make sense. They're in the right place. You know, you have it tight, so the wrinkles are correct for how you have it. I just feel like the armpit's a little crowded just as far as a garment goes. Just how sleeves are cut. If you have, so this is heading towards a raglan sleeve, right? Because if you're cutting something that's going to be tight, your armpit is actually going to be up here, right? See, this is cut almost like a very loose pattern. And then this is the sleeve, right? And I just feel like your shoulders have slid, or your seam line's in a weird place. Because if you have something where the shoulder's dropping that far, sort of how this pattern is cut, it's sort of cut I don't know if you... So normally your armpit is cut like this. And then the backside's cut a little deeper. And then it comes up. Right? And then that's the shoulder seam. And this is a pretty straight thing, right? Unless it's cut loose. And then if it's cut loose, you know, normally you're going to have a lower armpit, because when you do this, you want there to be room for the fabric to move. Where if it's a nice tight armpit, usually it's a tight shirt. No, it's all good. I don't know if that makes any sense. So basically what you've done is you've sort of cut the armpits like this, where if we're looking at it from the side, it's very far out, and then it kind of comes back in and is real tight. Right, for it to be that tight up under the armpit and to be tight here, you would have had to cut this pattern where this is way out. So if you're this tight in the armpit, very rarely is the garment going to be way far out here. So I would think that you probably want... What's going on? And then some of that just makes a little bit more sense if it's coming out of the physical armpit. If that makes any sense. Yeah, I think the only thing that's really... The armpit's the only thing that I'm finding a little strange, because if this is tight and this is baggy, the shape of that armhole is really strange. The characterization's nice. The hair is fun. He's awesome. Yeah, just look at that armpit. That's the only thing that's really kind of weirding me out a little. And if this is baggy, you would probably have one more fabric break in here. This is just a little too conular. You know, move. You know, maybe something like that, if that makes any sense. Because you're probably not just going to have a nice tight cone up here, because that's not the shape of his back, right? You still have another break. Where's his body? Oh. I thought I'd find his body in there. Transparent. You see the curve of his back. So you're... Yeah, so that's roughly where the back starts draping. I just think you'd have another break in here. because that's a lot of airspace to just cone down. Right. Yep. Armpits are back. Is this H33KS? Is that this model or is that a different thing? Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And, you know, once again, when you get into stylized stuff, you're dramatizing a lot of that stuff, so it comes down to, you know, what that style is. I feel like the knees are a little high. Right. But yet again, stylized characters, so who's to say what, you know, what style you're shooting for? Because if that makes any sense. Yeah, if you drop the arms, that should be hitting thigh. But I mean, obviously this is a silhouette you were looking at, so I'm assuming that's intentional. Thus stylized. Ugh. It's a lot of fun. It looks great. Armpits and back. 2 thumbs up. Looks great. Henry can send you the link. It's zbru.sh/thw. There it is.
Are you suggesting you can help somebody re-topo a model in Maya?
No. Sorry, I wasn't paying any attention. I just saw, where can I send a file? I'm like, meh. I'm probably not the best person in the world to ask for that. I mean, I can re-topologize it in ZBrush, but I don't really know anything about Maya other than it's something that I worked on, like, feels like 20 years ago. It's got to be at least 12. Well, it's got to be at least 16 because it was before I started ZBrush. I'm going to go get some water. I will be right back.
Mute your mic.
No, you all get to hear me cuss and bumble and drop stuff. How do I mute my mic?
I don't know. Do you not know how to mute?
Is it right here?
Your mic just doesn't have a mute button. Yeah, I can hear you. Yes. He thinks he's muted. Oh. I wonder if you muted in OBS and not Discord.
Oh, I did mute it in OBS, not Discord.
Fine.
Okay, hold on. I got this.
No, you're good. I can hear whatever happens. It doesn't matter.
Oh, so
I thought this was going to be a simpler process. Just go. Just go get your water.
Harry, can you hear me? Tommy, can you hear me?
I can. Can the street?
Should be
Yes,
able to. Okay. Who's next?
Up next, we have Vivek Kumar, Anatomy 16.
Boop. Boop. Very nice. Did we look at this one last week?
Yeah, I definitely think so, but this one,
He seems to have smoothed it in some.
yeah. It was submitted near the end of the stream, so I'm assuming they updated it and sent it in.
I'd say he still has a pretty small package. And so this muscle down here crosses over. I wish I could. Can't really show my leg. But so what you have is this muscle right here. I'm gonna just come on. No? Oh, there it is. Why were you not smoothing? What's going on there? Interesting. 19 million. Okay, let's lower res, lower res. There we go. Okay. So what happens is that bone's there, right? But this muscle crosses over that bone. And so you see the bone down here, but this is a crossover. And that's why on people who aren't quite defined, it looks like this bone does this. Like the front of that leg often has a curve there. And that is because that muscle crosses over. That's picked up there, and that's there. Something to think about there. So with that defining as such, let's turn that down. This would probably go something in that vein. Your feet are kind of twisting out, so that's rotating even more, but something like that instead. And then there's that calf muscle. Kind of doubles there. It's so funny with the feet pointing out. It does that kind of odd. Once again, I don't know if he did alter this or not, because there still needs to be space between the legs here a little. Something a little more like that, probably. Yeah. A little rounder. That's what closes the gap between the legs as the buttocks. And then second back. Butt's a little flat, especially for someone that's muscular. Other than that, looks great. Your armpits look nice. You know, you gotta... That's not gonna cut too far in front of that bicep. Your pecs look nice. I like what you've done with the abs. Yep, so really, look at this muscle group. Give space between the legs. And if it is male, you definitely have at least some sort of a package there. Arms look good. The hands are... Yeah, I'm not sure if he did work on that. Well, maybe he did. I don't know. This is slightly more dramatic right here, and then that gives you this like top layer, and then the thumb comes off that top layer and here too. So remember that this is a little bit like a triangle with a lump. And that gives you that silhouette on the outside. Because the wrist really does come in. There's a hump and then the hand. So you're damn close. Yeah. Looks good though. Hello. I think it is, if you're sculpting characters, anatomy is insanely important. And hello, Indonesia. Okay. I'm assuming that this is next. Acris?
Yes, but before you do that, if you look in the chat, you'll see a link to a JPEG.
Where is that?
Can you open it up and explain how you would go about sculpting something like that?
Like that? Is this what we are talking about?
Can't see it yet.
Wow, what's my lag? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, the lag's pretty substantial here. There it is. Yep, that's it.
Well, I mean, if you have that, excuse me. Well, if you have that, you can use it as an alpha to get started. That's for sure. But if you mean like just how would I start sculpting it? I would just start with the dents and then start working into the cracks. So let's, well, divide. So I might take set up a basic spray pattern just so you get lumps. So let's start with a clay, and instead of dots we'll make it color spray, and we'll make it pretty big, and let's see how big it is. It might be a little too bumpy, but that's okay. Gives us some place to start. And then, you know, pick your dents. How would we? Go through and pick your low spots. You know. And then come in, turn that down, make it fairly big, and start getting, you know, your squirrely pattern in. And I'm doing it real light to begin with. And I'm getting the main flows down. Right. And then make my brush smaller. Turn my Z intensity up a little. Right. Turn my Z intensity up, make my brush smaller. And then just keep, you know, coming back in and figuring out exactly how much pattern you want in it and kind of how you want it to go. Does that make sense? I guess, is that what you're asking?
I think so.
Okay. I do it something like that. Or, you know, take that picture, go to standard, take your little picture, make it drag it out and see what it does. Because that's white and black, it would probably give you at least a good pattern to start with. Where is that? Where's the picture again?
It's a link in chat.
Save image. Download. Hide. hide. We're going to undo you back to here. Maybe. Okay. Ish thinking. Ugh. Eh. You mean this pattern? This lumpy pattern? That is just using spray or color spray. It's a function over here. See, there's lines, drag, blah, 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 blah. And now we're going to import downloads.
What did you make those cracks with? DM standard or SK?
Cracks, orb cracks. Right. Yeah, orb cracks. Ooh, my eyes are burning out. Where are you? I downloaded it, didn't I? Hold on. I touch my eyes and now my eyes are burning out. Okay, cancel. Where are you? It's right here. Oh, it's on desktop. Why am I downloading things to desktop? Very confusing. Alpha. Import. Desktop. So that gives you at least that could be a place to start. Hold on, let's do this from a flat instead of my lumpy material and see what it does. You know, so that could be a place to start.
Yeah, that was real easy.
I mean, it's not very deep, but, you know. You can stop it. My calibration's off. That's really annoying.
That's something I've always said about you.
That my calibration's off?
Yeah, that man's calibration is really annoying.
I didn't say annoying. I said off. I see how you are.
Oh, you said annoying. Never mind. I've never said that about you then.
Oh, I see how you I see where this is going. All right. Okay. And I hope that answered that question. Delete all. Boo.
Yep. And I think the next model you have is the last model you have so far. There's more to download after it.
Damn it, Jim. I'm just a doctor. Looking good. I would say that these striations... Do we have high res? No. Is this decimated? Maybe remeshed? Interesting. Because you didn't sculpt it this low res, did you? If you did, that's kind of impressive. Okay, let's get some resolution in here. All right. So and it's because you were doing it low res. So, get it. But when you start getting into like these muscles, these striations, you got to remember this is still the same muscle, right? So these striations, especially in the pecs, aren't necessarily so lumpy out here on the pec. If that makes sense, it doesn't really change the pec shape. Let's do... So the pec striations are often... Come on, give me bigger images. Where are my tools? I don't... How come I'm not seeing tools? Is there like a tab up there that I'm missing? Hey Henry, Mr. I took a Google class. Where the hell are my little buttons?
What are you looking for?
Tools so I can get large images. Right? See, none of that crap's up here. What's going on?
Oh, you're looking for filters. Yeah,
Images.
interesting.
There they are. What the hell was that even about? Strange. Large. So here, you can see that that's not 2000 by anything. You dorks. I love it when they say it's a huge image. There we go.
I mean, it may be displaying small, but the image behind it is at a high resolution. So you could right-click, open a new tab, and it would be bigger.
So you can see at this extreme position where he's rolling that muscle forward, you're getting a slight... Right, that muscle is now coming over the pec, and you can see how there's a little striation there. But you're still not getting sort of lumps on the outside edge because it's like rolling over to its insertion, which is kind of up and under. But you can see even here where it's being pinched into the armpit, right? That's where you're starting to get a little bit of a pinch right there. But it's not And especially since in all reality, this muscle is sort of here, 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 right? These are going over one another or under one another. It's not really, right? You can see where that, it's the pectoris major and the pectoris minor, but you can see it's sort of coming from there. Let's see if we can find someone who's really striated. Here you go. Now, here you're getting that distortion, but it's also because he's compressing over his pec and here. But even here where this is that extreme, you can see that really you're not getting a huge lump, right? They're almost like striations of the same muscle. Here, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, this right here is madness. But you can see actually the striations are really in here. Boom, that's going up under the armpit. He's pinching it, and that's why you're getting that there. It's ridiculous. Look at that. That's madness right there. That's silly. So, if we're taking that into consideration, you know, he's not down and actually flexing the living hejibas out of that. So, you're probably not going to get that extreme of a here. You'd probably wind up with something a little bit more like, you know, that's your one shelf. It's going under the delt. Right. And you'd see the striations here far more than you would on the outside. Then that's coming in. Both those are going in there. And then that's coming out. Does that make sense? Just a little bit less of a shelf there. Because the shelf sort of makes it look droopy. Other than that outside ridge, that looks really good. I like your neck into your skull, that's nice. You gotta figure out how that's gonna work in with the temple. Instead of it looking like it's just a little lip, make it feel like At least it's part of the skull. Knees and legs look good. Hands look great. Yeah, looks good. Any questions on that one?
Doesn't look like it.
Cool. Oh my goodness. I'm tired tonight. Yeah.
Aren't you glad somebody forces you to get off the computer before 2 a.m.?
Mm-hmm. I don't know what kind of jerk would do that to me. Who does that? Did we do... Are all of these new ones? No, we just... This is Akaru, right? Akaru's.
Yeah, I haven't moved that one yet. So there should be 3.
Okay.
Vict, Cena, Vlad.
All right.
In that order.
Oh my god.
All right, you gotta stop that now.
I'm sorry, I can't. And I don't have any caffeine. Did that download? Hey Ash, how we doing? I know. I'm like got the yawns. It's been a tough weekend. We're gonna do it again. Sorry. Yeah. Why do I feel like that didn't download? No.
I see the 3 files.
No, I just didn't download it. Or, oh yeah, no, I guess I did. I see you see them. See, I'm looking at the wrong screen.
They don't appear unzipped.
Oh my
that
god.
matters.
Okay. Oh, jeez Louise. I'm a mess. I know. Just me thinking about you yawning made me yawn. Why are you making me yawn? Oh my god. It's ridiculous. Hold on. It's not like I woke up super early today or anything, I don't think. Didn't really sleep a lot this weekend though. You're quitting on me that quick? I see how you are, Ash.
I think it's your fault.
I think it is. I drove her away.
You yawned her into submission.
That's tragic. I know, it really is. Can y'all hear me crunching gum? Or is that just in my head? It's really noisy.
I think it's in your head.
Good. Because if I was making that much noise, I'd be horrified.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty affected by food sounds, and I haven't wanted to kill you yet, so
Good.
that must mean I can't hear it.
Good. Did we have this one? We did.
Is this ANDR? Yes. So this is a newer version of what you had previously. So
Okay.
I didn't ask you to crit the previous version.
And then we have this. And then we have this. Right?
Yeah.
So this one's first?
The ANDR one, the newest version of it, is first.
Okay, that's this one. So she has fairly masculine pecs, which isn't necessarily a problem, just let's look at it's an odd breast. I understand what you're doing. It's a little strange. I think under normal circumstances you want to give it just a little bit more weight, just so it feels like a breast. Just something to consider. Don't have to do it, but it helps to have just a little bit of weight to your breast. Okay, turn everybody else on. Your fabric looks good. Shirt looks good. The bands attaching look good. Get that turned off so we won't go there. Your hand's just a little flat. And I think it has to do with this. There's a little drop to the thumb. The thumb isn't flush. I'm surprised you're not harassing me about hands.
You didn't sculpt those.
I know, but when I'm talking about it, normally you're like, oh, who are you to talk about hands?
No, only if you try and sculpt them from scratch. That's
From
when
socks.
the disaster starts.
It's not that bad. Once. One sock hands, and then everything's just gone. Just trying to hurry. And I get yelled at for my sock hands.
Pretty sure you spent like 6 hours on that hand.
Well, once it went south, it was pretty bad. It was hard to get back. I mean, when things go bad, you know, they're gone. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not much you can do about it. And I just refused to start over. That was really the problem. I was going to fix them.
Sure.
And I didn't. I have sculpted many a successful hand since then.
Mm-hmm,
to the point that you stopped harassing me about it. So there. You're like, okay, I guess he could sculpt a hand fine.
Well, here's what happened. You did a little hand tutorial, and I'm just waiting until enough time passes that there's absolutely no way you could ever figure out what YouTube video that recording was in, and then I can go back to talking about it.
You're like, then I'm going to harass you.
Right. But I can't risk you remembering to look for that.
You're like, you'll find it.
Yeah. After enough time, though, there's no way you'll find
That's,
it.
you know, it's, you know, for a fact, I still have no clue where it is. You could totally harass me and I would never know.
Probably.
So the thing about the thumb is that it's not flat. You have sort of this transition here. And then you have this sort of triangle area here. So it's not flat. You definitely have a transition there at the thumb. Your thighs look good. Wait, everybody's been doing this with the calves today, haven't they? So let's and then you have I understand this is that stylized base, but the silhouette the calves are a little lower. But I understand this is that stylized anatomy thing. It's probably a little more alike. It's probably
What was it you said about the thumb? It was flat?
Yeah.
Okay.
See how we transitioned that there? We pushed it down. It got this meat in here. In this section in here. So it's not just flat, it actually drops down. Like where the pinky is sort of even here. The thumb is not. The forefinger's here. There's that transition little meat flap there. But it sort of does that instead. And again, this actually crosses over that bone. Calf. Weight's down here a little. Something a little more like that. The clothing looks nice. Your buckles make sense. Well, I say that and then they don't. Remember, your buckle. Come on. Why aren't you selecting? What is up with that? Or not? Remember, our buckle works by and then that is over that. Right, there's a center pin there that is resting on. And then it goes under the buckle. And that's what locks that pin in, as opposed to just being here and being open. See, that doesn't go over that. So buckle comes in. There's usually a little pin. Goes out like that. And then your buckle is here. And here on top. There's usually a little slot in the leather where the pin goes. Goes in and under, sits on top of this belt. That's why there's usually a little strap that comes through. So you can see that this buckle is not lashed, and it wouldn't hold because the pin, it would slide right off that pin and pull out. So you want to make sure that it is going into the buckle. Does that make sense?
No, say it again.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, so the belt needs to go under the buckle. The pin is what holds it in. And then it goes back under the buckle. So there's a post with a pin. and then here's one edge, and then here's the other edge, right? So edge, edge. Belt goes under. It goes through the pen and under, right? The pen is being pinched against the edge. That's going up over this, under that, since the belt is attached to basically the pen part. This is attached to this pin. Comes under the edge, over the pin, under the edge. And this pin is what prevents it from sliding out and off. Right? See, that buckle isn't working. It needs, the pin needs to come out here and over that. We're going to pretend there's a hole there. This comes up. That usually comes down. And then that goes under, up, under, under. And you don't have a cross pin in there, so we're just going to slide the belt over so it looks like there's a cross pin in there. And then technically that would be coming through the hole. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So if you're going to use buckles, make them buckle. Get your lower leg, the shape of the lower leg a little bit more accurate. I would probably give her a little bit more weight in the breast. Purely stylized though, that's on your back. The face looks nice. The hair is good. There's no overlapping. This is coming behind her ear, not into her ear. So you probably want, if her ear is like this, you got to remember that it's connected right here. So if this is coming back, it's got to go behind the ear, not into it. So I would probably change this. Bring it back behind the ear. Bring that back. Bring that in. Boop. Nope. Boop. Get up there. Get down there. But see how like that feels like that's going behind the ear and not through it. Yep, and I think that's really the juxt to that. The face is nice. Arms and arm anatomy are nice. Legs looking okay. Yep, I think you're there. So, lower leg shape, thumbs, behind the ear, maybe give her some breasts instead of just pecs. The knee, sort of that. It's not just a circle. And make your buckles. Buckle the buckles. Buckles. Sparkles. Other than that, everything is looking good. Any questions?
Give it 1 sec.
Are you typing Russian now?
Yep. They don't speak English very well.
Right
they
on.
seem to read it really well. Are the fingers too long?
Maybe a little, but once again, it's just tricky with stylized characters because people are like, "Oh, I like long fingers," and well, there it is. If you like long fingers, they're long fingers. I would say they're a touch too long for the base of the hand. Now they're not. It's really that simple. You're saying that the waist is too thin? Maybe. Once again, stylized characters. I find it's always tricky. Yes, the waist is very waspy. But if she's in a corset, but yeah. So, because you got to remember in muscle, like this muscle right here tends to straighten out the waist some. So very often, for a waist this big, you're really dealing with silhouette sort of more. Like that, but you're the stylizer. All right. Any questions? I don't know. I've seen you start removing those bottom 2 ribs. It's shocking how small a waist you can get. At the turn of the century, tailors had surgery license where they could remove the 2 floating ribs, adding that extra 3 inches of just meat. I mean, there are people who had 18-inch waists. I think my neck's 15 inches. So, people's waists are only, another 1.5 inches thicker, 2 inches thicker than my neck. So, it's shocking what you can get.
Spooky.
Yep. All right, so we go into Senna. Is that where we're at?
We are at Senna, yep.
Boop. Is this Doctor Strange? Looking good. Senna's here, isn't he?
Sure was.
Is this Doctor Strange? No, I was just wondering if it was Doctor Strange. Now here, let's look at the face. Well, so let's start with neck. Love it. You know, the neck is really coming up and in and attaching under the skull. So your head's going to wind up with something like that. It's not quite that flat. Yes. So I think once again, depending on, you can always find exceptions to everything I say in human anatomy, because there's always somebody who has something that's bizarro. So take what I say for what it is. I think that you cut the nose in and it gives you sort of like a pouty upper lip. Turn the symmetry off and we'll look at this symmetrically. So you got to remember that this muscle group is sort of everybody's decimating. I think this nose is a little deep into the cheeks. The nose isn't really... When you cut the nose that deep in, it kind of makes the whole face sink in. Well, that's what I kept asking, but we'll see. Right? And so... Hold on. You can't work on something that has 100,000 polys. Right. Eyelid goes below that. That's on top. Under. That's the edge of the ridge. That's also the edge of the eye socket, so that's not going to come out too much more. It's going to come in. I'm just sharpening this into planes so you can kind of see what we're talking about. We take planar, come in here. That's sort of one plane there. It's not. And then that. Comes down to the edge of the mouth. Let's look at it from the side here. Center of the eye, edge of the mouth. Okay. Let's see how the mouth comes back under this cheek muscle. And then these are all sitting on top out here. Instead of cutting back in and under. Right? It's not like this is a big scoop. It's where two planes meet. If that makes any sense. So if we look at... Stop it. Where are you? Mask pen. Select rectangle on it. This is still a little scoopy, but that's okay. See that dent right there? How the eye's riding. I think that come on, you. See how that's riding a little bit closer to. Come on. Uh-oh. Having an error there. Let me get to restart ZBrush. I don't know why it does that. Every once in a while. That happens. Okay, so let's... Alright. Will it let me do this? Oh, wow. Interesting. So it'll let me use my... Does that sort of make sense, Senna? Yeah, I know that the easy remesh is really good. And I know that you can get it to do like the looping stuff. So, cool. Right. Okay, we have one more, right? But guess what? I have to reboot ZBrush.
I'll allow it.
Wait till the picture shows up. You'll know what that sound was for. You can do it. Come on. Boom. Okay. ZBrush. Ridiculous. Bodybuilders are absurd. You're all crazy. My God, stop yawning. It's ridiculous. So dull. You can do it. All right. What was that?
You see the question?
Any way to pour skin in Dynamesh and don't lose it after ZBrush? Reproject it. I mean, that's the only way. Is because if you're ZBrushing, well, I mean, you can always just ZBrush at a huge resolution. Well, let's look at your anatomy real quick. Boop. for you as well. Remember, the thumb joint is not flush with the back of the hand. There's this triangle area here, right? So this finger comes down, and you can see the entirety of the finger. Can you see my hands? Okay. You can see the entirety of the finger comes all the way back to here. And then the thumb, my thumb joint is down here, right? Thumb joint is not up here like that. It's down. So that's the thing to always remember, is that this is like a little triangle. It's never coming. You guys are putting the thumb joint up here, and it's back down in here, right? And that's why we get this, because it's not flush. It's at a lower angle. So this thumb is much more like a pinky than a thumb. Yeah. Goodness gracious. All right, so see how it looks like you have 5 fingers and no thumb? So that all comes down here. And then kind of in. And then that's why there's this skin flap here. When it pinches and it kind of comes up and up. And you wind up with this triangle shape right here, which is a defining element for the thumb. The joint's out here, and it sort of twists. The thumb is not, see, look, the thumb is not on the same plane as these, right? These come in, this comes in at an angle. So when you're looking at my fingernails, see how you don't see the fingernail of the thumb? It's pointing a different direction. So just make sure you reevaluate your thumb here, because fingernail out, not up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. The accoutrement looked really nice. Your hair's nice and stylized. The wood's nice. If you have something in someone's hand, make sure their hand is closed around it. You see here again, your thumb isn't opposing. And that's why they call it an opposable thumb, right? Otherwise, they're all going this way. And then, see, this is bending in the other direction, right? In, down. It's what makes us awesome. See, this thumb doesn't bend. It's not opposing. What would you call that? A complementary thumb?
Maybe.
It's not a thumb of opposition. It's an agreeable thumb. Ugh, stop it. Oh my gosh. Ridiculous. So yeah, you just have a fifth pinky there instead of a thumb. So that's just something, but the torso and the shoulder anatomy and stuff looks good. The face looks good. The hair looks good. The pants look good. The toes and feet look good. Your distressed shoes look good. The fact that your belts and straps are actually on the surface, that's really good. I'd say it looks really good. You just need to figure out your thumbs.
Did you see their comment?
What was our comment?
One, I fixed my thumb a little. I don't know if they're saying they fixed it before they submitted or after, but they knew the thumb was off at some point at least. In my work with a trouser leg in the middle, retopology works very badly. Can you tell me how to fix it?
I'm assuming they're meaning up here in the crotch.
Yeah, I would think so.
Oh my gosh. Well, how to fix the retopology?
It looks like a lot of accidental intersection.
Yeah, it looks like just you kind of pushed it up here and pinched it in. Hold on, let's... So I think when you retopologize this, don't retopologize it as a pinched groin. So let's duplicate this real quick. Okay, we're going to start by retopologizing at X symmetry. Okay. Right. Man, I'm running out of oxygen.
Last one, push through.
I'm working on it. It's not even late? Is it 11 yet?
Yeah, it's almost 11:30.
Really? Oh.
Yep.
Well, then it's a lot later than I thought it was. So when you go in here to retopologize this, I'm going to go half. Move, come on. I would same half. Okay. So sorry. We had this pinching crotch there. Let's see if this does it. Okay, we have that. Actually, let's undo that. and do it here. Okay, same. Keep creases. Alright, let's see what that does. Keep the same. I'm trying to get rid of that point. Maybe we're going to do that one. Undo that one. Oop. Okay, that might work better. Let's see. So if you can get it to where the geometry is, this side's better than this side. Where your geometry has a flush thing in the center. When we divide back up, so you like this. This is your history state. Come back in here. Low res, low res. Project history. Did that not work? Project history. This is just totally in a different place. Oh no, we have some weird place. Okay, we're marking that as history. Hide that. Project history. Grab your history brush. Come in. Turn symmetry off. Alright. Okay. So I would say by making sure that you keep like the inside crotch, like the inseam cleaner, where it's not a pinch, but where it's a square, you'll wind up with much less noise and sort of garbage. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
I think I have a problem with the crease in the middle. Well, yeah. Only because it's too far in. I mean, I think the only real issue with the crease is that it would be more... Low res. Right, you got to figure how your pants are cut. So instead of it being cut back and in like that, you're probably going to have right, so you can see that I filled out the crotch here. And now if we turn this back on, we can see that your groin is way in there. So if we high res, hide that for a second. If you think of this as pinching in here, right? What we have, give it to me. Right, where it's a little bit more filled up as opposed to just being a gaping deep hole. Because once again, the pattern for pants, deeper in the back, inseam, and then shallower in the front. And so if how you had it cut, instead of having these deep inseams where if you put your leg in it, it's kind of tighten up and in, what you did is you have... right? What you did is sort of have this cut at a very shallow angle. And that's why these are so deep in here, because it's cut as if there's no, right, there's no crotch shaped. It's just like almost a straight line. That's the only way you'd get it back that far. So if you came up here and you're like, okay, well, I know that this is pinching in the groin. This is here. Does that make sense? I just think you have it cut too far up and in. No, I don't think anything looks necessarily terrible. I mean, like I said, the thumb was just facing the wrong direction. That's not necessarily a horrible thing. Yeah, I just think that if you take like a pair of sweatpants, put them on, and just look at what your crotch is doing and copy it, I think you're going to be much happier. I mean, could you get a position at a studio like this? Yeah, I would imagine that you could. I just think you need to, well, work on your anatomy. Having your thumbs going in the right direction is good because, you know, the feet and stuff look good. It just depends on what studio you're trying to get on, what, you know, job. Because, like, if you're trying to get into Warcraft, this is probably very feasible, where if you're trying to get into really elegant, let's say cyberpunk kind of figures, you know, this isn't necessarily the best example of that kind of photographic and anatomical work, but Warcraft or one of those, you know, fantasy games, I don't see why you couldn't. But getting jobs is tricky, I think, because a lot of people want these jobs, you know. But if you just keep working and get it to where you really know your anatomy, I think that would help a great deal. Right?
Right.
Right. Right. Right. If there are no other questions on that one, I think we're close to done, aren't we?
I think so.
Right on. Well, kind and gentle folk, I'm glad you joined us. On YouTube, hit subscribe and follow and like and all those things, because that's super important for our demographics and such. Not demographics, what's the statistic? Whatever. Tired.
Yeah.
Don't even
the
know.
algorithm.
The algorithm. That's the
The
one.
algorithm must be fed.
Must feed the algorithm. So get out there and feed that algorithm. For us. It's helpful for us. And then join us next week. Might do crits, might just sculpt. We'll see what's happening. By ZBrush. And thank you, ZBrush, for letting us stream. And let's see. What else am I forgetting? Oh, look at ZBrush Jewelry Workshop if you want to learn how to do a ZBrush. Have anything else there, Henry? Feed the algorithm.
Feed the algorithm. By ZBrush.
Join ZBrush Jewelry Workshop. Join Discord.
Join Discord.
Okay. That's all I got. I'm about to pass out. I don't know why I'm so... Well, I know exactly why I'm so tired, but you know what I mean. Alrighty, dighty. I will talk to you guys soon, and we will see you next week. All right, have a great weekend, or have a great week and weekend. You know what I'm saying.